Welcome to the MSDW podcast. I'm Jason Gumpert, editor at msdynamicsworld.com. On this episode, we get an update on the latest in document management and automation from two members of Formpipe's Business Solutions Group. Soren, Hjorth, and Stefan Kristiansen join me to discuss what they are seeing and hearing from their customers in the Dynamics community, the types of requirements they are responding to, competitive expectations, and how ERP upgrades can impact document automation plans. They also tell me about what's new at Formpipe. That includes the next major version of Lasernet, as well as some of the forward-looking plans they share from customers who are looking to their document management solutions to more holistically bring disparate business applications together. All right, well, Soren, Stefan, welcome to both of you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. I wanted to start the conversation just talking about some of your observations and maybe a bit of an introduction from each of you as well of what you're seeing today in with your customers, what kind of document management issues broadly they are experiencing, and I suppose that you're also helping them with. Soren, do you want to go first?
Yeah, let me do that. And so I'm Soren. I am out of the U.S. Team. I'm covering East Coast to West Coast here for Formpipe. I am together with Stefan in a group called the Business Solutions Group, BSG. And we are more technical sales, but we are very technical. So a little bit about my background is I've worked with architecture of data centers, cloud computing, virtualization, all that infrastructure, firewall, compliance, security, all that jazz before I started looking a little bit more into the Formpipe application and doing more on the software side here. And I've worked with it for several years. And I think one of the big things I started seeing here in the U.S. over the last years is a lot of request for speed. Everybody wants things to be faster. They get a little bit less patient per se. And what we have been able to do here in Formpipe and with Lasernet is we have been able to bypass some of the DRA servers, so the printing options that comes with D365. And by doing that, we've been able to optimize the speed and get output out faster. So just a couple of examples coming out of my head is we had a customer out on the West Coast that every month needed about 250,000 roughly statements out, and their requirements were they wanted these printed in less than an hour. And they tried to throw hardware at it. They tried all kinds of solutions, but they couldn't get below that 1 hour. We came in with a solution and were able to do these in 34, 36 minutes. So a lot faster than anybody else we've seen out there. Another one was a big customer out of Canada, and they have a lot of these home improvement stores. And whenever they wanted to print a receipt out for their customers, they were like a 30-second delay for it to come out. And we again went in, analyzed their infrastructure, put in a couple of these Lasernet servers, and not only did we print a lot faster. I think it was like half, if not even faster than that, at the endpoints. We were also able to help them get rid of 40 of these DRA servers. So, those are the things that, coming from an infrastructure background, right? I'm super geeked out about. I'm super excited about to kind of be able to offer to some of the customers.
All right, excellent. Yeah, and I'd love to dive into some of those challenges a bit more as we get going here. But I also want to say hi to Stefan and let you introduce yourself and share some of your initial thoughts too.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Stefan Kristiansen from also same team as Soren, Business Solution, and I also work as, you can say, technical sales guy. So one of the common document management issues I see customers having, also for Soren now talking about the performance, as I will talk about changes. So we see often that customers, companies, partners, they have requirements for like changing documents on the go. Maybe you have a few fields you need to move around, maybe some additional data needed to be added. for reports. And normally, for people listening to this, they would probably know the issues they have when they need to do standard changes in Dynamics. It can be heavily, it can go through processes where you need more developers over the projects, and simply adding a few fields can take time. But one of the great benefits for why, especially also myself, why I like the Lasernet, what we can do is we can add fields, new data, connections to other tables in a few clicks. So one of the most, you can see things that I see mostly is customers, partners, they want simply additional fields, like on a sales invoice, maybe they want an account number or stuff like that. And with a few clicks, we could add the additional fields on the data, the report itself. Then we would have to add the fields to design in our designer. Next time they print out the report, it will simply show the new field that we have added now. And one of the main key things we have here is that we actually don't need to have any downtime. The servers are not going to go down, anything like that. So someone from marketing, finance could call any Lasernet consultant, or maybe the people they have trained themselves in the company, could call up and say, hey, could you just move the title a bit to the left or down or bottom or somewhere else? And after like a few minutes, the logo would be changed, or the title would have been moved. And so that's, you can say, one of the key things that we see, that people, they want to be able to change the design itself on go, maybe adding a few new fields. And you could say standard document management, I would say. So that's my common thing I see most around.
All right, great. To take the topic of sort of, I guess, outputting documents just a bit further, I'd love to know more about what you're seeing customers ask for. Because Soren, you mentioned printing, and Stefan, you're talking about sort of output formatting. When you're working with clients, I mean, how many organizations, or how many use cases, I guess I should say, are still about sort of printing paper with all the necessary changes and formats, and how much of it is electronic these days, where maybe it's outputting to a PDF or some other just digital format?
So,
Soren,
yeah, Stefan, I could talk about the U.S. market, right? It's just what I see over here is primarily still a lot of printing. More than as a Dane, we're still very green, and looking at sustainability and the e-statements and all that. We want to try and push that as much as we can, but we still have quite a lot of the bigger clients that still have these print shops and print massive amounts of paper. One of the things I try to do every time I engage is always talk about, what if we added in a second feature that said, if in your D365 environment you have an email on a client, on a customer, that it automatically always by default email versus printing, right? And we did one kind of POC on that, and the customer ended up staying with that solution. And I haven't followed up with them to kind of see if they're now 100% email, but they're definitely 50 to 60% down on their requirement for physical paper. But they came from a massive print shop. So that's kind of what I've seen over here.
And just to follow that up, when you were talking about some of the speed gains earlier, is that largely in the computing side of outputting those individual documents, or as opposed to sort of the physical print output?
Yeah, so it's creating that output, right? Once it hits the spooler, once it gets to the printer, we're kind of up into the world of the printing gods, right? If it's a 11-year-old printer, it prints slow, right? There's nothing we can do to fix that problem. But it's the generation of that, either it's a Word document, Excel, PDF, whatever format you guys want to print it out in. Once that gets triggered by the D365 all the way through the Lasernet engine and then out on the other side, that's what I kind of measure on the speed, right? But once it hits that printer, yeah, there's nothing more I really can do.
Yeah, Stefan, anything you would add?
I would definitely say for like the Europe side, especially with Scandinavian and around there, we see customers going much more a digital way. It's less about printing. When we have customers cases, we see much less with printing. So it's all about emailing, how templates, because they now, since emailing is now the main core or the main sending way for most companies in, for example, Scandinavia, it's all about how does the template look for emails. So we use a lot of time on designing templates for emails and just making sure that the email that when it goes out, it has the correct PDF attached, it has the correct files, it looks good. But of course, you also have a few printing because sometimes you, especially our warehouse customers, because you need to like put all those labels on the next of the container or printing in the boxes. So when you send out products through, let's say from your warehouse, sending products to the customers, then of course they also need a paper down in the box telling what's actually in the box. But it's getting less. I definitely see in the Europe that we're getting much more digital day from day.
So for a bit of perspective, I wanted to get your view on sort of how customer asks maybe have and customer requirements have changed over the years. We've talked a little bit about how sort of speed of processing and the flexibility is really important today. But how has that evolved, Soren?
So a lot of the customers I talk to on a daily basis, they all look for automation. They want to take some of the manual processes and see if they can use either software or something else to automate any given process, right? They also want to make sure that with all these different types of software that they have or have purchased, whether it's from one vendor or multiple vendors, that somehow all of them can be integrated like APIs, right, into one kind of pane of glass. So they don't have to go on multiple different websites to get their information, or they don't have to look different places for it. But it's as much as possible, all these different applications, whether it's being archives or legacy systems or anything that feeds into the reporting systems, that they all are managed or controlled or viewed from one place. So we have spent quite a long time to take at least our own applications to start with here at Formpipe, and do all these integration. So a quick example is we have our connector that sits on D365, and we have an archiving system called Autoform DM. Before you had to go into a web browser to find your archived documents in Autoform DM. Now you can see those straight in your D365 window. So that's just one example of us trying to, accomplish what the customers are asking for out there today.
Well, what do customers expect today when it comes to implementation and the actual, experience and time and cost of actually putting a really good modern solution in place? I imagine that's changed over the years too.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Today, when you come out and going to implement a solution for a customer, they have already been looking at many different possibilities, many different solutions. So the expectations from today versus like a few years ago, it has like top risen, since now they have been doing all the research on every possible ERP solution or add-on you could get in. So once you finally is the software, we of course hope someone will pick for the solution. Then it's you can definitely feel they know what they want, they know what they need, and then of course we will go in with professional glasses and go in and help them with their best needs on how it could be done. But you can definitely feel like today it's people they know from what they want from a new ERP solution or a new add-on, as you can say, Lasernet is on top of their dynamic solution.
Yeah, I totally agree on that one. I often, before the first demo with people, I have a set of requirements of what they're looking for, which helps me quite a lot, because now I can make it more personal or more interesting than just a generic sales pitch or generic demo. So yes, I agree with Stefan that a lot of them have done a lot of research and they know exactly what they're looking for. Now they just look for what piece of software will give them the most, preferably 100% of it, but if not 100%, how much of their business cases can be covered or their requirements be covered by any given software out there.
Yeah, are there typical either questions that you need to ask to clarify things, or maybe things that clients are not thinking of? Or I should say, if it's a Dynamics implementation partner, for example, that perhaps involves you, are there certain details that often come up that like listeners to this might want to keep in mind that aren't perhaps obvious when they're scoping or sort of planning for what document automation might look like in their organization?
I think one of the things I ask people quite a bit is, what means the most to you, right? What is it that if I could go in and come up with some sort of a solution, whether you use our software or someone else, right? What is it that would add value to your business? Whether it's you save time or you increase revenue or whatever it is you want to try. And like we just talked about, most of them know that, but when you start digging into the details, it's not always clear how they want to get to that point. And just as an example, depending on how big the customer is and whether or not they have an IT department, one question could be, who is it you want to manage this system, this output document management system? Is it IT specific people? Is it like a third-party ERP partner, or is it don't you have that many people, internally in the company? So it has to go over to, I don't know, marketing, sales, some of that. And it's all very different answers we get, or I get, from people when I talk to them, because most people want a solution that is easy to use, right? We all been accustomed to this, drag and drop, WYSIWYG, right? What you see is what you get kind of idea. And it needs to be intuitive. It needs to be fast. It needs to be all these different things. But I think the biggest discussion I usually have is, who is going to do this going forward? And once we know that, we can, both tailor training, but we can also figure out if that's even, feasible. One thing is a good plan on a piece of paper, and the other thing is, once it hit reality, it's not always the same two worlds.
Yeah, I can imagine if IT thinks that a business group is handling it and a business group thinks IT is handling it, then that's maybe one of the...
we have a lot of discussions like that, absolutely.
Sure. Stefan, did you want to add something?
Yeah. So add additional on that, what I like to do is that when we get new clients or new customers who are interested in the software, I usually ask them to show me a demo or a presentation of what they do today and what makes them feel happy about what they do. And they can give a short demonstration on a half hour, 1 hour of the process they do today. Because they know when they go, for example, from AX12 to D365 Dynamics F&O, they know that the shift from there to the new one, going from old version to new version, it's not going to be as pleasant as they probably maybe want, because it's a new system, it's working differently. You can't just code it like you could with the old ones. And that's why I normally ask them hey, can I see a half hour, 1 hour introduction of what are you actually doing normally? Because then we see that, we can see, okay, that's cool, because we can actually do something similar to that. You just have to do with this and this box, and you can actually spare a few clicks by doing it through this way instead. And in that way, we will be able to, and I've used this method multiple times, that we can see what they do today and trying to adopt it into the new systems with the new technologies we have today in our connector. So that's definitely one of the things I prioritize doing with new clients.
That has to be one of the big decision points, I would imagine, is do we want to use new technology to sort of either replicate and modernize exactly what you do today, or are you looking to really revamp and change what you do to get perhaps in search of a different outcome or a different level of performance?
Yeah, definitely, because they can also be stuck in just that, you can say, bad habit that they just actually do what they always used to, and they thinking, oh, we should just do the same in the new system. But that's also where we can like help them, saying that, well, actually you could do it much easier by changing what you do. And of course, people in the companies, so that's always the thing. But with changes, how are you going to use the system daily? There will be changes, and if people have to get into it, like the habit of it. But that's definitely one of the things I like. We can actually change how they normally did it, but into like a smarter way, sparing a few clicks and make it more dynamically.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and I think what Stefan just kind of described is one of the most overused words, I think nowadays, is this digital transformation, right? But Stefan kind of pinpoints how you can make that tangible, right? It's not just a word anymore. It's actually a process, and it's very valuable in our opinions, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly see how a solution like Lasernet is really sort of helping. It actually does digitize things, in many cases that weren't before, and kind of gives that experience to organizations. I did want to ask, more specifically too. I mean, what is new with the product? I mean, we've talked about sort of speed and some of the ability to, I guess, bring in fields and rapidly change things. Is there anything else that our listeners should really know about what's new with Formpipe Lasernet?
So one of the features, I think I touched a little bit on it, is more of these application integrations, right? So we have all these add-ons. We have input management, OCR, right? We have archiving solutions. We have connectors into CE. We have connectors into BC. Most of the times we're probably known for the F&O connector, but we have all these other tools as well, and over the last, I would say, 4 or 5 months, we've spent some time integrating. So again, it's no matter which connector you're going to use, which ERP system or whether you use CE or not, you will be able to stay within that application and not have to flip through multiple tabs, browser windows, other clients, tools, and all that, right? That's I think it's simplifying the use we've spent. And then another thing coming up is the Lasernet 11 is coming out next year with full support for Kubernetes. So now we can do we have more elasticity in failover. We have more elasticity in load balancing because we can now use all the cloud technology fully, which is some of the stuff, again, from my background, that excites me quite a bit.
Also, to add on Søren's note is that we have this big library of applications and connections, as Søren was in on, and it makes it, that's why it's making it so cool, because we also have, of course, a lot of, in this field, we have a lot of competitors. Many of these competitors is also like a lot of focusing on dynamics on a specific area. But what I like about our product is that we have like different areas at the same time. So when you actually buy the product Lasernet, you're getting so much more with it. For example, if you need to scan in, as Søren was talking about, we have this OCR solution. So suddenly we have a client saying, hey, we are actually receiving 100 emails every day. We could probably automate it and make Lasernet scan it automatically, archive it, and fill in information in our dynamics automatically. Oh, well, can actually Lasernet do that? Yeah, we can do that. And in that way, you just get this big library of different applications, kind of like what Microsoft is trying to do with having all these different applications running in the same flow, and you always like keeping in your library. The same, you can say, Lasernet is trying to do with having all these different applications, also So that's definitely why I'm excited to see where we are going also in the future, because we're getting more applications, we're getting more support for different ERP systems. It's all going to get connected in one big environment. So that's really exciting for me personally.
I wanted to go back to one thing you mentioned there. I imagine it might come up getting, with Microsoft customers and the growth of Power Platform. Are you asked more these days how your solutions compare to, say, someone building a flow and trying to automate their documents that way?
Yeah, so we can definitely work together with the Power Platform on many flows, because Lasernet can input and output different sorts of, you can say, document files. We could, for example, we could deliver XML files to Power Platform, where Power Platform we could set up a workflow on how to deliver the task. But you can say the workflow you actually have in Power Platform, you can kind of do a lot of those things also in Lasernet itself, because Lasernet itself, the developer software, is a workflow tool which can do many things that you can also do in Power Platform. So I would probably say you can do many of the things you can do with Power Platform, but actually directly in Lasernet, since you have all these workflows, you can talk with different HTTP modules, web modules, different applications. So it's always interesting to hear what customers they want to use the Power Platform, because sometimes we could actually just outsource it directly in Lasernet if needed.
Yeah, and I'll jump in here, and Stefan is absolutely completely correct. I usually say we're not Power BI, we're not Power Platform, but we can do a lot of those things. So depending on the end user requirements, I always want to give it a shot and see if Lasernet can do it. And like a side comment, I know we talk about all these ERP systems all the time, and we have connectors for them, right? But Lasernet, the application by itself, can actually be a standalone. I worked with a client here in Indiana, where I'm located, and they didn't have F&O, they didn't have BC, they didn't have any of the Microsoft ERP stuff. But what we were able to do is we were still able to use get some files out of their existing ERP system, send that through PowerFlow, and then get that into Lasernet, and then use Lasernet for some of the functionality that made sense to them to automate this process. So they went from a 25-step manual process down to 14 steps. So time saver, cost saver, all that fun stuff, right?
Anything else you wanted to add before we wrap up in terms of what's going on at Formpipe these days? Or I know you already mentioned the upcoming new version of Lasernet, right?
Yeah, Lasernet 11 coming out next year, which is the full-blown cloud-enabled. I don't know if anybody knows, but we also provide hosting. So we have something called Formpipe.cloud. So if you don't want to deal with the hardware and upgrades and patching and all that fun stuff that comes with the Lasernet server, and having a server, whether it's a virtual or physical server, right? We have that option. And another probably not very well known thing is we have an add-on where we can enhance, not replace the point of sale kind of receipts, but we had a lot of fashion houses and home improvement stores and all that have all these point of sale systems out in the stores, that they wanted, instead of the standard little receipt, they wanted it in A4 or letter, so like a full blown. And on top of that, they wanted to make sure that any campaigns that marketing or sales had, that automatically gets added on that receipt at the bottom or the top, or any combination whereof. So we can also do that, and it's not probably, at least here in the US, I don't think a lot of people know we have those, but it's a fun little enhancement, and we have had a lot of the marketing people being very excited about, on the receipts, very easily drag and drop kind of method, add these campaigns into them when they print.
Yeah, I can imagine. Sounds like an exciting possibility if they haven't had it before.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, right. And the the footprint of a small regular receipt. You can't put too much on that, right? But now you have, maybe logos, you have watermarks, you have all these different things on your receipts. People got pretty excited about that.
Well, really appreciate you both taking the time to speak with me, to give an update on what's happening at Formpipe these days and what you're seeing with Dynamics customers. So thank you both very much.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
This has been another episode of the MSDW podcast. My thanks once again to the Formpipe team for joining me. And for more information on Lasernet for Dynamics and Formpipe, please visit www.formpipe.com, or please check out Formpipe's other content on MS Dynamics World. And that's it for this episode. If you want to get in touch with me, you can reach me by email, jgumpert@msdynamicsworld.com. You can also follow all of our updates on LinkedIn and on Twitter. Until next time, this is MS Dynamics World, signing off.